For today's video, we are going to give one breakout candidate for every NBA team for next year's season. And these can come in different ways and forms, right? They could be someone that's just breaking out for the first time, a year 3 jump, something we saw last year with guys like Scotty Barnes, Jalen Suggs, and Alperen Şengün, or it could be somebody that's elevating themselves into a new tier and they're going from a good starter to potentially an all-star candidate this year. Or it could just be somebody you never really heard of and they turn themselves into a nice role player, maybe like Miles McBride last year with the Knicks. So if you agree or disagree with your team selection, please let me know in the comments below and let's get into it. So we're going to start off with the Memphis Grizzlies. They had so many injuries last year and I was going to go with GG Jackson because I thought he was going to have all the momentum from his rookie year, but he's already going to miss some time to year number 2. So I'm going to go with Santi Aldama, who's going to be entering his 4th year in the league. He was the last first rounder in the 2021 draft and he was a project play, but he's been developing every single year of his career. If you look at the shooting splits in his rookie season, he shot 40% from the field and 12% from 3. In year number 2, 47% from the field and 35% from 3. And while those numbers went down in year number 3, 44% from the field and 35% from 3, the volume went up a decent amount. He was taking 9 shots a night and 5 3-point attempts. Now, I don't expect Santi Aldama to take that many shots again next year with John Morant coming back and this team being fully healthy, but it could be right around that range. And if his efficiency can turn into high 40s from the field and high 30s from 3, he's going to be a very valuable stretch 4 in this league. For the Houston Rockets, I really wanted to go with Amen Thompson, but I do wonder if there's going to be some playing restrictions this year because obviously Fred VanVleet's the starter, Jalen Green's the starting 2, Dylan Brooks and maybe Cam Whitmore fighting for that small forward spot. So I'm going to go with Jabari Smith Jr. going into year number 3. Like I just mentioned with Santi Aldama, Jabari Smith Jr. was a project play when he entered the league. We knew that it was going to take some time. He had a very raw feel to his game at Auburn, but he had all the potential. He had the size, the ball handling, and the athleticism to be a really good 4 in this league, and I think we're going to see that on full display next year. His numbers really jumped up from year number 1 to year number 2. 40% from the field in year 1, 45% from the field in year number 2, 30% from 3 in year 1, to 36% on 5 attempts a night, which is really encouraging. Rebounds went up, assists went up. I thought the defense got better, and he just looked more comfortable out there, and obviously it helped playing with Ime Udoka. Jabari Smith is still very young. He's 21 years old. I just hope there's enough volume to go around with this Houston Rockets offense that he can get his shots and break out in year number 3. I'll talk about a bounce back year for a new Dallas Maverick this offseason, and it's going to be Quentin Grimes, who they picked up in that Tim Hardaway trade, and I love this acquisition. I think Quentin Grimes can go back to what he was in 2023 with the Knicks for the Mavericks in 2025. Somebody that is going to give you 110%, that's going to dive for loose balls, that can pick up the other team's best guard on offense and really do the dirty work for you on the defensive end of the floor while also being an elite 3-point shooter. And all those characteristics that were on display for Quentin Grimes in 2023 for the Knicks late in that year and in round 1 against Cleveland are going to be perfect complementary traits to Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic next year. Okay, for the Pelicans, it's very tough because I don't expect anybody in that starting 5 to have a breakout year. Herb Jones broke out last year and this team added DeJounte Murray this offseason. So there's not a lot of scoring to go around for my breakout candidate to really increase a ton, but I do think the efficiency is going to get better. And I do think he's going to take a big leap on the defensive end, and that is Trey Murphy. Yeah, a lot of people expected a breakout year for Trey Murphy last year. That didn't really happen. He was banged up to start off the year. He only appeared in 57 games. Missing 25 games is a decent amount. He only started 23 of them. The 3-point shot went down. The overall 2-point scoring went down. The drives didn't look as efficient, but I do think Trey Murphy could put it all together in year number 4 and is not going to average 20 points per game because, like I said, there's not enough to go around. You got to feed DeJounte, Ingram, Zion, and CJ McCollum. I already mentioned Herb Jones, but I do think Murphy's going to get his shots. He's going to be more efficient this year, but also improve on the defensive end of the floor. I know a lot of people are going to want to talk about Wemby for the Spurs for obvious reasons, or maybe Jeremy Shohan, who I do think could have a nice year number 3. I'm going to talk about a different guy from that 2022 class. I still have a lot of Malachi Branham stock. He's going to be my pick here. I think everything has been trending in the right direction for Malachi Branham. His efficiency from downtown went up from year number 1 to year number 2, 30% from 3 as a rookie to 35% from 3 as a sophomore. The free throw percentage looks a lot better too, which I think can translate to his outside shot. The playmaking went up as well. There is a knock on Malachi Branham's defense, and he's going to have to work on that. And hopefully he's coming off the bench with Stephon Castle next to him, and that could help him out on that end of the floor. But I do think Malachi Branham is going to be primed for a nice year 3 jump where he's going to be looked at as a nice scoring option for San Antonio off the bench and in the future as well. For the Charlotte Hornets, you could go with Mark Williams, but there have been question marks with his health so far in his career. I'm going to go with year 2 man Nick Smith Jr. from the 23 draft class. class. I was very high on Nick Smith Jr. from the 23 draft class. I thought he was someone that's going to be a very good combo guard, can facilitate, can initiate an offense while also being an elite three-point shooter. And last year, we saw him be an elite three-point shooter in a small sample size. He shot 43% from three. He was a good free throw shooter. I thought he was a good playmaker, and he plays with energy, man. He wants to run the floor, and I think that is a perfect fit for the Charlotte Hornets' younger, up-tempo offense that we're going to see under Charles Lee this season. So yeah, you could go with Mark Williams, but I'm just a big Nick Smith Jr. fan, and I think he can really make a name for himself this year as a good rotational piece for Charlotte going forward. For Atlanta, I could have went with Kobe Buffkin, who I was also very high on from the 23 draft class, but I do think Dyson Daniels is going to have the best year of his career in his first year with Trae Young. Daniels was the 8th overall pick in the 2022 draft, and he was coming out of the G League Ignite to be a point guard in the NBA. It hasn't really worked out. The playmaking hasn't been great, the efficiency hasn't been great, and it just hasn't looked cohesive in the offensive flow. But on the defensive end, this dude is on the doorsteps of being one of the better guard perimeter defenders in this league. I don't think he's going to be as good as like Alex Caruso or Drew Holiday at the end of the year, but I do think he could elevate himself on that end of the floor, and I think that is going to be great next to Trae Young, who has his defensive deficiencies, and we're going to see that on full display for Dyson Daniels as a good complementary piece in this league. And sometimes, if you're a top 10 pick, it's not going to work out. You're not going to be a all-star and all-NBA candidate. It just doesn't work out that way. So you can do what Jalen Suggs did. You can find your role and excel at it. I'm really excited for year 3 Nikola Jovic in Miami. I think he's going to be someone that is a perfect stretch four next to Bam Adebayo in that front court, next to Jimmy Butler on the perimeter, and he's going to be someone that is going to fit this Miami Heat offense like a glove this year under Eric Spoelstra and really excel and show that he was great value for being the 27th overall pick a couple of years ago. Every single number went up from year number 1 to year number 2, and that has been a trend with guys in this video. These project plays are going to take some time to develop. Nikola Jovic was a 19-year-old rookie. He was 20 years old last year. He just turned 21 a few months ago. This guy is still incredibly raw as a player, and he showed toughness, he showed grit last year, and he was an elite three-point shooter, and he's going to just be a perfect Heat culture guy this year. For the Washington Wizards, you could go with Bilal Coulibaly, but I think it may take another year. You could go with Corey Kispert, but I think he's good in his role right now. I think this guy could be the starting center for Washington at the end of the year, and that's Tristan Vukcevic. Vukcevic was the 42nd overall pick in the 2023 draft, and in a small sample size last year in 10 games, he looked very crafty as a big man. He averaged 8.5 points, 3.5 rebounds. I thought he showed some three-point potential. He's a good free throw shooter, and I think he could be an above-average rim protector as well for Washington. And if they move Jonas Valanciunas at the deadline, if it doesn't really work out with Rashawn Holmes and Marvin Bagley, I think Vukcevic could be in line to be the starting center as a 21-year-old at the end of the year. The Orlando Magic didn't bring back Markelle Fultz this offseason. They didn't try to sign a different point guard. It seems like they're going with a Jalen Suggs KCP backcourt now. I think there's some question marks with that for playmaking purposes, and somebody that could step up for them that could play some good point guard minutes is Anthony Black from the 23 draft class. I'm excited for year 2 Anthony Black. He showed great flashes last year, more as a wing, but I think he can kind of go back to what he was at Arkansas, be a lead ball handler for Orlando, show that he could be a good defender and fit in with all those good defenders with the Magic, and also be an elite three-point shooter as well. And all those traits can contribute to winning basketball in Orlando, and that's all they need from him this year. They don't need him to break out as like a star-studded point guard, just somebody that could play 8 to 10 minutes a night at the point guard position, facilitate, slow the game down, be a floor general, but also be an above-average three-point shooter and defender. So I mentioned in the beginning of the video where guys like Şengün, Scotty Barnes, and you can also mention Jonathan Kuminga and those guys that had year 3 breakouts from the 21 class. I think this guy from the 22 class is going to have a year 3 breakout. He had a little bit of a down year last year, and that is Walker Kessler. I do think Scotty Barnes is better and has a higher potential, but Walker Kessler kind of reminds me of Scotty Barnes' career trajectory at this point, right? Like Scotty Barnes had a great rookie year, surprised a lot of people, same with Walker Kessler, and then was pretty stagnant in year number 2. Didn't really improve too much, same with Scotty Barnes, but I think Kessler is going to show that he could be one of the better rim protectors in all of basketball in year number 3. The advanced numbers are there. He grades out great analytically on that end of the floor. He's a good rebounder. He's an elite shot blocker, and he's still just 23 years old. He's incredibly young. Hopefully we see more minutes, but just the game spread out for him. There was obviously a revolving door of big man in Utah last year. There's a lot of names there, but I think Kessler is going to be the big one coming out of this year. Who is going to be able to replace KCP in Denver? My answer is Julian Strawther. Strawther was the 29th overall pick in the 23 draft, and what I saw from him at Gonzaga, I think could replicate to what Denver needs next year. Someone that is just that ultimate glue guy. He's going to be able to knock down his threes. He's going to play defense. He can run in transition. He could dribble. He could drive to the rim, and he could play a two-man game off of Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, and Jamal Murray. I do think he has better defensive potential than Christian Brown as well, and I wouldn't be totally shocked if he was the starting shooting guard in the playoffs for Denver. I need this year 3 jump more than I need air. I've been been so adamant that Shaedon Sharpe is going to break out in year number 3. I think this could be it. He's just 21 years old. People forget that he just skipped college altogether. He didn't play at Kentucky, and he went from basically the high school to the NBA and was the 7th overall pick in the 22 draft. And last year, he was just banged up. He was hurt throughout most of the season, and that affected his play. I also didn't really love the way Chauncey Billups was utilizing him in the 32 games he appeared in, but I do think that Shaedon Sharpe is going to put it all together. He's going to be someone that's going to be efficient from the field, from 3, from the free throw line. He's going to defend, he's going to be able to rebound, and he has legitimate 3-level scoring potential at a very high level one day. He's just 21 years old. This could be the year of Shaedon Sharpe. Man, it was really tough to pick an Oklahoma City Thunder, so I'm actually going to go with Jalen Williams, somebody that I think could be an all-star this year. So Oklahoma City didn't really add any big scorers this offseason. I assume that Alex Caruso is going to average less points per game than Josh Giddey did last year. Isaiah Hartenstein isn't known for his scoring, and this team drafted Nikola Topic with their lottery pick, who's not going to make much of an impact on the offensive end this year if he even plays. So that I think gives a prime runway for Jalen Williams to be by far the number 2 scorer on this team, something he was last year, and with his elite efficiency, could average over 20 points a night and could be an all-star in the West on a Thunder team that could definitely be the 1 seed at the point of the all-star voting. I mean, you're talking about somebody that had played in 71 games last year, has one of the best mid-range jumpers in all of basketball, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 54% from the field. That is insane from a 22-year-old. 43% from 3, 81% from the line. He took a jump on the defensive end as well from year 1 to year number 2. He plays winning basketball. He's extremely clutch as well. I think Jalen Williams is going to be an all-star next year. That's my hot take. For Minnesota, it's tough because a lot of these guys have broken out before, like Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, even Nickeil Alexander-Walker broke out last year. So I'm going to go with their 2nd-round pick from the 23 draft, Leonard Miller. Leonard Miller is just a freak, man. He is 6'10". He can handle the ball like a guard. He's extremely quick downhill. He's physical inside, and I think could be a real rotational piece for Minnesota, and that's for a team that is going to be one of the better teams in the Western Conference. Miller was very good for the G League Ignite, I thought, in his role, all things considered, and I thought it was a steal getting him with the 33rd pick in the 23 draft. I thought he should have been a first rounder. I thought Miami was going to use their first rounder on him, and that's how high I was on Leonard Miller, so I think this could be a nice rotational year for Miller, and that would be considered a breakout. So I talked about it before with Jalen Williams, that I think he can go from a really good player to an all-star, and that's going to be my prediction with Cade Cunningham. Everything is trending in the right direction for Cade Cunningham. He got a new coach, a defensive-minded one in JB Bickerstaff. This is the best team around Cade Cunningham since he got drafted back in 21. They added veterans like Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley. Now, I know those aren't some crazy names, but it's going to make this team a little bit more reliable and better around Cade, which should be Detroit's #1 priority. Cade last year was really good for one of the worst teams in the league. 62 games played. He averaged 23 points, 7.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds. I thought was a very good 3-point shooter, 36% on 5.5 attempts a night. He can get downhill. He can get to the line. I think he's a good defender as well. I think Cade Cunningham is going to be an all-star this year, and that is going to be a year 4 breakout for the former #1 overall pick. Every year, somebody said that Patrick Williams was going to break out going into his sophomore year, year 3, year 4, and maybe nobody's saying it anymore. So this is the perfect time to say that Patrick Williams is going to break out in year number 5. He just got a $90 million contract extension from the Bulls this offseason, which definitely surprised a couple people, but there's a reason why he got it. He's someone that has elite 3-and-D potential at the power forward position, and that is very valuable. Look what Jaden McDaniels got. Look what Aaron Gordon got. Look at even what Jonathan Isaac got with all his injury concerns. This position and this archetype is very valuable. Somebody that could be a switch defender, can guard multiple positions on the defensive end, on the perimeter, in the post, while also being an elite 3-point shooter. He shot 40% from downtown last year, and I know he only played in half the games for Chicago. I think he looked really good in those after a very rocky start, because he basically shot 50% from the field and 49% from 3 on his final 20 games of the season. Everything is trending in the right direction for Patrick Williams. I think it's going to excel his game that he's playing with a good playmaker like Josh Giddey, so I'm excited for year 5 Pat Will. For Milwaukee, I'm going to go with an undrafted player that's entering into year number 3, and that is AJ Green. AJ Green last year in 56 games was an elite 3-point shooter for Milwaukee. He shot 41% from 3 on 3 attempts a night, and I think if that volume just expands this year, and this Milwaukee team isn't super deep, so they're going to have to rely on AJ Green to be a sharpshooter for them off the bench. If his volume goes up, I think the efficiency is going to stay the same, and he's going to be one of the better 3-point shooters in all of the NBA this season. For the Indiana Pacers, this guy is going to be considered in my most improved player pick. I don't think I'm going to go with him, though, just because there's a lot of mouths to feed in Indiana, and that is Andrew Nembhard. Andrew Nembhard had a great end to his 2024 season, especially in the playoffs, how clutch he was against the Knicks in round number 2, and how good he was without Tyrese Halliburton in round number 3. In 4 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, on the second biggest stage you could play on in the NBA, 21 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, shot 54% from the field, 47% from 3, and 89% from the line. But like I said, this team is really deep, and there's a lot of mouths to feed in Indiana, so I don't know if he's going to get that ample usage that he got in the playoffs last year, but I think he's going to impact the game on both ends of the floor. He's going to be a good facilitator, and he's going to play winning basketball, which is going to be huge for Indiana if they want to go back to the ECF. I finally think this is going to be the year it gels for Evan Mobley on both ends of the floor. I think he's going to go and show what he was on the defensive end of the floor in the 2023 season, where he was on all defensive first team and finished third in defensive player of the year voting, and I think this will be an even better offensive season he had that year. I think he's actually going to be an okay three-point shooter. I think the mid-range jumper is going to look good. I am very high on Evan Mobley this year. With Jared Allen in that front court or not, I think no matter what, this is going to be a big year for Evan Mobley in year number 4, and it's finally going to be the year he puts it all together. There's a reason why Max Christie just got $32 million from the Lakers last offseason. They think he's going to be a big part of their rotation this year, and I think he's going to break out in year number 3. Christie was the 35th overall pick in the 22 draft. He fell to the Lakers, in my opinion. I thought he definitely could have been a first-round pick, and he really hasn't had consistent playing time, but I do think under a new head coach in JJ Redick, who's going to prioritize the development of these young players, something Darvin Ham really didn't do with Max Christie, and that is going to be all that Christie needs to break out in year number 3, show that he could be an elite three-point shooter in this league, and a great complementary piece to LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the half court. The LA Clippers need somebody to step up now that Paul George left to go to the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, I don't think this player is going to put up close to Paul George numbers, but I think he's going to break out to be a good rotational piece for the Clippers, and that is going to be the 48th overall pick from the 23 draft, who just had a phenomenal summer league in Jordan Miller. Miller averaged 25.5 points, over 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists a night, and over 2 stocks during 28 minutes in 5 summer league appearances. He looked really comfortable out there. It looked like he could be a really good scorer in the half court, off ball, and that's exactly what the Clippers need to come off the bench next year. They're going to have to rely a lot on Kawhi, Norman Powell, and James Harden in the starting lineup, and Jordan Miller could really be their best bench scorer in the 2025 season. All right, I hate to do this because he's a rookie, and obviously he's not really breaking out this year, but the Suns really have no legitimate breakout candidates from the roster last year, in my opinion. So I think Oso Ighodaro is going to have a great opportunity to be the starting center potentially at the end of this year. He's 22 years old. He looked like a seasoned veteran at Marquette last year. He's 6'10". He's a phenomenal defender, and he's a really good passer for a big man, and that's exactly what you want to put around Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal in the half court. I don't love Yusuf Nurkic. I think he's taken steps back on the defensive end of the floor. I don't really love his offensive game either. There's a real opportunity for the 40th overall pick in Oso Ighodaro from this year's draft to be the starting center for a playoff Suns team this year. A player that probably benefited the most for Golden State with Klay Thompson going to the Dallas Mavericks has to be Brandon Podziemski, who's in line to be the starting shooting guard next to Steph Curry. And I just love Pods' game. I really thought that was a steal for the Warriors with the 19th pick in the 23 draft, and he's someone that is going to complement Steph at such a high level. He can rebound, he can pass, he can dribble, he can defend, he can run in transition. He shot 38% from 3 last year. He can do a little bit of everything. I am super excited for Podziemski in his age 21 season with the Warriors this year. That's going to have an increase in usage, an increase in volume shooting the ball, and I think he's going to take strides on the defensive end. People were raving about him for being on that practice squad for Team USA Select this summer, and I think it's going to all gel together for Podziemski in year number 2 and help the Warriors make it to the playoffs even without Klay Thompson. So I don't think this guy's scoring is going to go up this year because they added DeMar DeRozan, but I do think Keegan Murray is really going to emerge as one of the best and most valuable 3-and-D pieces in this league. We just saw Patrick Williams get $90 million for having kind of a disappointing first 4 years of his career, but just the glimpses, the potential that he could be an elite 3-and-D player earned him $90 million. I think Keegan Murray, while I don't think he's going to average more than 15 points in year number 3 because they added DeMar DeRozan, they brought back Malik Monk, is going to take another jump on the defensive end of the floor, something we saw from year number 1 to year number 2, and he's going to continue to be an elite 3-point shooter and be one of the more valuable stretch fours in all of the NBA. So I could have went with Miles McBride for the New York Knicks. He broke out last year, but I think he could even have a better year this year. But Jericho Sims, who was the 58th overall pick in the 21 draft, has a chance to break out for the Knicks this year just due to opportunity. Isaiah Hartenstein left for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They brought back Precious Achiuwa, they drafted Ariel Hukporti, and Mitchell Robinson, their starting center, has had injury concerns almost every year of his career. There's going to be an opportunity for Jericho Sims to be a staple big man for the Knicks this year, and if he steps up in that opportunity, could be their breakout candidate. He's insanely athletic, he can run the floor, he can be physical inside, and I don't think he's really clumsy on the offensive end either. It's not like he's uncoordinated with the ball in his hands. And I think he can work well in the pick and roll. I just think he needs to really adapt that feel for the game, know where to be in the half court, have another year of continuity and chemistry with Jalen Brunson, and I actually think he could be an okay rotational big man, which would be considered a breakout year for Jericho Sims. Part that I think could shine this year in year number 2 is going to be Jalen Wilson of the Brooklyn Nets. Jalen Wilson was the 51st overall pick in the 23 draft. He is going to be 24 years old this year since he was an upperclassman coming out of Kansas, but he looked promising in his rookie year in a small sample size of 15 minutes a night in 43 games. I thought he showed crafty scoring ability in the half court, and with Dariq Whitehead, who was their first round pick in 2023, having a disappointing rookie year due to injury, not really doing much in the summer league, there's a chance that Jalen Wilson is going to be better than Dariq Whitehead next year. So we know that Kristaps Porzingis is going to miss pretty much half of the year already. Al Horford is getting up there in age. I don't think Luke Cornett is going to wow everybody by any means. So I think there's an opportunity for Neemias Queta to be a valuable center for the Celtics going forward. He's going to be competing for the backup center minutes, I think, all season long. And he's someone that's 7 foot tall. He's 25 years old. He actually does not look too bad on the defensive end of the floor. He doesn't look too clumsy with the ball in his hands either. He shot the ball 64% in 28 games last year. He could be a good physical rebounder and just play hard-nosed basketball. And that's what the Celtics need to get them through the KP injury. For Philadelphia, I'm going to go with an undrafted player from last year that had a nice rookie season, all things considered, and that is Ricky Council the fourth. Council in 32 games last year averaged 5 points and shot 38% from three for the 76ers, and he shot 40% from three on corner attempts as well. And if he's going to be playing with Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid, there's going to be some wide open looks for Ricky Council next year to be an elite three-point shooting complementary piece for Philadelphia. And lastly, I got to talk about my most improved player, which is going to be the biggest breakout player, and that is Immanuel Quickley. I think this is going to be a massive year 5 for Immanuel Quickley. He just got that contract extension from Toronto. We saw what he could be for this team as a high usage and volume option in 38 games after he got traded to them last year. 18.5 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 40% from three on 7 attempts, was an elite free throw shooter, and got to the line 4 attempts a night, by far the most of his career. And I don't think people talk about Immanuel Quickley's defense enough because he's rock solid on that end of the floor. He's my most improved player pick this year, which I guess makes him my biggest breakout player for the 2025 season. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with in the comments below. Drop a thumbs up if you guys do enjoy. Subscribe if you are enjoying the videos as well, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.